Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk,
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos. Your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC Radio. I'm really excited about sharing this episode with you. We have Liquidware back on the line with us, and these guys are great folks. They make a great technology, and we've had them on many times in the past. Jason Smith is sort of a staple on the show, and absolutely great guy, always fun to chat with, and he brings his radio voice, which is always fun. So we have Jason with us today, but we also have Tyler Rohrer, and Tyler's one of the co-founders. You might know Tyler. He's just an absolutely great guy, and you might know him as T-Rex. So we'll actually ask him at the very end of this podcast, where did he come up with T-Rex? It's a great story. I heard it many, many years ago. So they're going to bring you up to speed on what's new at Liquidware. They just last week had some announcements. So let's get to this thing. Let's get to my interview with Tyler and Jason from Liquidware. Okay, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. It's so much fun to chat with you. For those listening, we have tried twice now to successfully pull off this podcast. The first time we chatted for an hour and a half and had to reschedule because we ran out of time. And, and now we just chatted for 36 minutes, but we're finally going to do this thing, and it's really awesome to have these guys on because they're great folks, wealth of knowledge, and a lot of fun to be around. So I miss seeing you in person.
You're too kind.
Nah, you know it's true. Come on. Anyone that knows you know it's true too. So who do I have with me? Well, I told you in the intro, I guess, right? So let's go through this in case you don't know this. My first question is always, who are you? So let's start with good old Jason Smith. Jason, who are you and what do you do over at Liquidware?
I am the Vice President of Products and Solutions this week. So I've been with Liquidware since just after the beginning, and I, as such, as being head of product marketing, I set the tone and tenor for the way that our products are marketed, and I'm one of the lead evangelists for telling the world about the comprehensive solutions they offer in the adaptive workspace management area.
Cool. Tyler, who are you, Mr. T-Rex?
Yeah, I'm T-Rex. I'm one of the two co-founders here at Liquidware, formerly Liquidware Labs. And my day job is working on our alliances. So our friends in the hardware and software and networking and cloud domains and operating system domains are my friends. And we work daily to try to find different ways to either accelerate or grow or deliver success as a supporting cast member. So I'm here and excited to talk about all the above, and I appreciated the last two-hour sessions. There's certainly a lot of challenges in this modern world, and if you want to spend some time, anytime, trying to solve them, count me in.
I love it. Well, let's have let's do it. Let's get to this. So for those who don't know who Liquidware is, can you share sort of, maybe this is a good question for Tyler, sort of share the why you founded this company, right? And then where have you gone since then?
Yeah, so I'll actually take that segue and take it as follows. So about 10 years ago, actually about 11 years ago, I found myself inside of VMware after an acquisition. They had acquired a company that I had previously been part of. And at the time, Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, VDI, had just been named. This is January of 2008. And I was put out there on the prairie as kind of the evangelist. Go talk about the benefits of running Windows as an operating system on top of a hypervisor, connecting with some remote display protocol, and explain to the world how much fun this is going to be. So I hit the road and talked to the large customers and large system integrators, obviously large stakeholders, and everyone either opportunistically or defensively kind of said the same thing, which is, this is really interesting, this VDI stuff, but how do I begin? And I heard that, for about a year working inside of VMware, and decided with their blessing that I was going to depart and start Liquidware, what was at the time Liquidware Labs, and really amped that Jason Smith was one of the very first people to jump on this bus and go on this tour with us. But really the mission was, in the beginning, how can we help deliver success in and around the adoption of virtual desktop infrastructure, and specifically what tools, what solutions, and maybe even what methodology are going to be needed, to help lead customers on that journey. Today, the kind of phrase or mission statements evolved. I think today we would say we're in the business of helping agencies, organizations and enterprises, sometimes the largest enterprises in the world, manage Windows at scale. Now, I'm going to probably get nipped on this one because I think of scale in two dimensions. I think of absolute scale, which is you've got a really big company, and so you've got, tens or 20 or 50,000 Windows instances that you need to manage. So we're in the business of helping there, and Jason Smith will gladly tell you about the products that we have to do that. And the second, is relative scale, which is you're an IT administrator and you don't have enough to do what you need to do. So your relative scale is you don't have the financial resources, or maybe the staff or the hardware solutions available to you, or haven't at least been proposed to solve those challenges. So I know that was a mouthful, Douglas, but these are kind of some of the things that both we think about every day, and I think some of the history of where we've come from.
That's cool. Jason, how did you end up at Liquidware? I remember this, and so it's sort of a pointed question, I guess. It's sort of interesting.
So I was one of the two members of a two-man team that had the IP and the product ProfileUnity, and it was indeed still called ProfileUnity before Liquidware, and that product had been around since about 2005. And I was a partner in that venture with a guy named John McDonald, who also joined Liquidware about that time. So the two of us joined in 2009 as they were getting started. And Liquidware had a mission to help proliferate really the virtual desktop market, to help you transform your desktops. And we still do that, although we transform you to any type of Windows desktop, physical included now. But the Stratusphere technology was already around as of about, quite formally, April of 2009. Tyler and David Benjamin had acquired, and a couple other partners had acquired this company in Alpharetta called
VMsite.
And the tech for Stratusphere was the reasoning behind that. So that gave you all the assessment and data knowledge of what you had today, so you could prepare for your future, and also gave you the benefit of knowing the user experience of the environment, so you could troubleshoot virtual desktop environments. And John McDonald and I had already been talking to VMsite for about a year previous, and they introduced us to Tyler and David straight away, and we hit it off. And as soon as the VMinsight acquisition ink was dry, they got to work on working with us to bring us in-house. And then the solution set, even in 2009, as they were getting started, included ProfileUnity in that. So that's how I came on board, and I have a long and deep history in the marketing of technology in this area of desktop management. So that's what my continued role has been with the company.
Very cool. Did I surprise you? I remembered VMsite.
I'm glad you did, because it was escaping me for a second.
11 years. We've all grayed a little bit, Douglas.
Absolutely. I do remember those guys. They were DABCC partners. I like their solution a lot. I remember
That's right.
John Alexander, I think was his name, maybe?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got a great memory. And I mean, the cool story is, and I'll go back down memory lane for a second here, is, the solution really was purpose-built to be an audit and compliance engine when, VDI in your environment started to rapidly proliferate. And so we loved the instrumentality. We thought it was perfect as both an assessment tool, a health check or spot check tool, obviously phenomenal instrumentality for deep, trouble solving and stuff like that. But they were just early, and so I think the combination of, a little bit of past tense and context in and around the virtualization market, plus that tech. That was it was a perfect storm in a good way.
That's cool. That's cool. So let's fast forward to today, and a lot has changed. Well, a lot has changed just in the past 4 or 5 months or something like that. You almost lose track of time nowadays. But the COVID-19's got a lot of attention. It's changed a lot of different things. It's affected our everything, right, in the entire world. How has it affected both Liquidware, and how do you see it that it's affected the EUC world?
Mm. Oh, this is a big one. I guess I would say first and foremost, after living as long as I've lived, I believe that radical change tends to happen in the form of gentle nudges. You just don't notice it when it's happening. And so, I guess having been a part of Windows, for most of my adult life, what you've seen, I think, over the decades is a progressive liberation of operating system as a runtime. And I know that was a mouthful. What that's allowed us to do, I think, is reimagine how we deliver, functional workspaces to people. So I guess the gentle nudge of which I'm first referring to is the fact that about a year or so ago, Microsoft themselves says it's okay to reimagine how you deliver Windows. I'm not saying they were, a challenge in the early days of server-based computing or in the early days of virtual desktop infrastructure, but I firmly believe that Microsoft, with the launch of RDMI/Windows Virtual Desktops, AppAttach, Intune, Azure, is saying this is the future of our runtime. So what I love about that, is that if it's the future of the runtime, and now we have unfortunately, a human pandemic, global in scope, global in proportion, and you've had a front runner in Microsoft saying it's okay, to operate remotely. It's okay to reimagine your workspace not on a primary campus. So I think those gentle nudges that came before had to happen. If not, if COVID had just dropped in our laps and we were still in a 100% monolithic, everything's on your laptop and only on your laptop, it might be good for FedEx right now, but it'd be horrible for most administrators. So I guess, how's it affected us? We were lucky that we had a cloud-first mentality as soon as we could. We were a bootstrapped, organically funded, really, a lot of people don't know this, we took no formal, putting up quotes, venture capital rounds, which allowed us to be more nimble, but at the same time, we had to be, really optimized in terms of our budget. So, Exchange was the first thing, that was cloudified, and, obviously communications, portals, customers, CRM stuff was the second, third, and fourth. So it's affected us, in our ability to get with customers. That's, I think, one of the first challenges. And so like most, other folks, we looked at the collaboration tools that were out there. We looked at the telephony tools that were out there and really have made use of those platforms. It's funny too, during the course of the day, I don't know, Jason, if you find the same thing, or Douglas, you do too, I'll use all of them. And it's funny, people ask, oh, you see more Zoom or WebEx or Chime? It's like, yeah, all of the above, and then stay tuned because there are other ones popping up all the time. So, I think history had to have played itself out as it did for us to be in an okay place to use the current state of technology, both ours, Microsoft's, the Amazon's, the other stakeholders that we're working with, Google's, or else we'd be in a heap of trouble. Jason, you see it kind of the same way?
For sure. We've seen this be an extra catalyst to the COVID-19 events, that work from home reality really hit hard fast. So we saw that we were able to help our existing customers as they scaled up or burst scaled to more virtual desktop seats. In a lot of cases, that was sort of the continuing theme through this. And then we have seen many net new customers look to VDI, or virtual desktops in particular, for a way to continue, have business continuity throughout this COVID-19 thing. So, as Tyler's touched on, we're partners with all the desktop providers, physical desktops with Microsoft, as he spoke about, and WVD, and Amazon Workspaces, Citrix, and VMware. So we have that advantage of offering an adaptive way to onboard to any of those. And if you're switching between the two, and we saw some customers burst scaling up into a different environment than they currently have, maybe Citrix to Amazon, or Amazon to Citrix. And we were able to help in those areas by making the experience seamless across those two.
Yeah, people seem pretty unafraid to go hybrid, Doug. I mean, we're seeing, I mean, I get that question a lot too. Well, who's winning out there? You know, is one platform absolutely running away with it? And you're like, yes. And they're like, well, which one? You're like, well, it depends what your use case is. I mean, it's a funny way to answer it, but it's probably more true than anything.
Interesting. Can you give any examples?
Sure. You know, so I think that there are for sure use cases. And to Jason's point, you know, I think you had this kind of first wave of early adopters kind of right through the gate when COVID first hit, but now it's fast followers. Fast followers are doing things like maybe really heavy graphics workloads. And so for that reason, they're looking for, you know, upgraded and intelligent, you know, endpoint operating systems, and they're looking for, you know, graphics horsepower maybe around the rendering side. Conversely, you know, in that same company, they might also have a call center. That call center cares about 4 apps, massive scale, and 24-hour, you know, work cycles. Again, all work from home, you know, and all needing to be orchestrated. For that reason, they might be looking at like AWS or Amazon Connect, you know, in workspaces or AppStream. It's really cool. I think over time, and this is a Tyler guess or a T-Rex guess, some of the platforms will fill in their gaps. And you might see some platform supremacy, but I think we're probably 24 months from that, you know, really. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons that, you know, I mean, we keep looking at, you know, the new versions of ProfileUnity and FlexApp that my colleague here, you know, Jason Smith knows far more about than I do. But I would probably submit to him that, you know, we are looking at where those platforms are headed. We are anticipating and obviously openly communicating with the gaps that they believe and that we hear from our customers need to be filled. You know, that's a great business to be in for Liquidware.
That's great. That's great. So you mentioned the new release. Last week you did release updates to ProfileUnity and FlexApp. Jason, what's new?
Yeah, that's right. We released version 6.8.3 of ProfileUnity and FlexApp. Really the R2 version. It was an update of a version we introduced in January. So I'll cover really quickly some of the new things that were found in both of those. This gave us features in there that would give you seamless FlexApp compatibility with the FSLogix tech that Microsoft acquired recently, and more specifically the FSLogix profiles. We have our own profile disk for sure, but we work seamlessly with FSLogix profiles as well. And in this case, we had a couple of workarounds for a registry key to tweak here or there. And so those have all been overcome and added into the product where that's seamless now. We also have implemented official support for Windows 10 multi-session. And as you know, that's the crux of really the biggest benefit of Microsoft WVD. Are your WVD entitlements. So there's native WVD straight from Microsoft, and then there's WVD entitlements that you could use under Citrix or VMware, for example. And the Windows 10 multi-session OS is one of the main benefits of that, just as a reminder. And it's sort of the new RDS type or server-based computing type operating system. While all those are still around on the server side, there's one that's focused on the desktop side. So this gives us seamless support for that. And we've had speed improvements within our own filter driver and the agent itself. We also are supporting now in the R2 version that shipped last week, VHDX as a format to be able to save your profiles to. The newer VHD format from Microsoft is supported then with the VHDX. We also, as a reminder, support VMDK from VMware. So that's supported for FlexApp, being able to containerize applications on there, and then they're layered back in from those storage media. And then also for our profile disk technology, if you're leveraging that or FSLogix, we're compatible with VHDX on the profile disk side. There were a few bug fixes, admittedly, in this R2 version 2 from last week. So if you had any hiccups with FlexApp and the version we shipped in January, those have been successfully overcome, and to the delight of our customers, obviously. And it also helps us because we updated the filter driver. It helps us with greater compatibility for the types of apps that you can layer with FlexApp, and also speeds up things for mounting these apps at login, boot time. We also have that proprietary click to layer type feature set still in the product, where if you don't click on the icon, the application's never really layered. So even that's faster once you click on the icon, time to live with the application. Hourly
Hey,
billing.
Jason, real quick shout out. I just want to give a quick shout out too, because I'm literally reading an email thread while I'm listening to you. Our good friends over at Login VSI are actually doing some really cool testing using what kind of the technology you just went through. So Stratusphere, FlexApp, and they're actually benchmarking some of the performance improvements. Really cool. I mean, I love that just literally came in live. Doug, only you could have a podcast that's that relevant, my friend.
I love it. I love it.
Only you.
Breaking news.
For sure. We've included some other things too. Hourly billing for AWS. If you're an AWS Workspaces customer, you can actually go into the marketplace and you can pay as you go now with ProfileUnity and FlexApp. You can pay via the hour instead of the traditional licenses that we've had for perpetual licenses or concurrent licenses. So this is an extra option for licensing. And then we have a runtime installer tool that we've included that gets the C++ runtimes and .NET frameworks already in there. So we're easier to install than ever before. So that's the updates that we have out of 6.8.3 and the R2 version that shipped last week. And customers are already seeing improvements in the speed. We're already fast, but every second counts, as you know, at login. You've been a student of login times for many years, Doug, and if you can shave another 1 or 2 seconds off, customers love that.
Yeah, it's all about time, right? So, well, it's at the end of the day, it's all about user experience, and time is definitely gives you partial part of giving you the best user experience. So that's really great. And speaking of user experience, you and Tyler mentioned Stratusphere. So, and this is also where you have integration with IGEL. So can you maybe share what this integration with IGEL is all about? 2, what Stratusphere is all about? And then maybe, anything else you'd like to share about Stratusphere?
Sure. So the integration with IGEL, we've been working on that for just over a year, just when we started talking about the things that we could do together. And then so approximately last summer, we had the full integration. We already had it to where you could manually grab the agent from us and start getting the metrics for the IGEL endpoint. So that could be your UD Pocket, right? Or your actual hardware device if you're using IGEL hardware. And what this enables you to do is having a purpose-built Stratusphere agent, and we call that our connector ID agent. And the reason why I call that out is because in your firmware, in the IGEL firmware, that's the way that you'll see it. Turn on the connector ID agent. It's one little checkbox now, and that was the further integration that we did last year, having it also in the firmware. And then you put in the URL of your virtual appliance, and it will start reporting back metrics that you could not have seen otherwise, giving you that first mile of metrics that so the customer may be having endpoints and end users logging in from, let's just give an example, work from home. Maybe they're using a UD Pocket, right, for their secure desktop working from home, and you want to not only see the metrics for maybe like a Citrix or VMware or WVD session, but maybe you want to also see the metrics, which those sessions would be in the cloud usually, or sometimes back on-prem, and you're attaching to those. But maybe you need to see the metrics from the end user's individual PC level that's running the UD Pocket, all the way to the cloud desktop environment where it is, or the on-prem environment. And that is what the agent integration on the IGEL side that we worked on gives. It gives a more comprehensive view. We already have metrics for the agent running on the desktop session itself, but when we correlate that with the first mile from the end user logging in to the environment, we get a complete picture, because we can now see things like, how good is the internet connection on the endpoint device, and not only the internet connection from their provider, but we can also, and this gets into some of the things for the new version that you just asked about too, we can actually tell you approximately how far your end user is sitting from their Wi-Fi access point now in a graphical view.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so if you have a troubleshooting session going on with the help desk with that end user, you can say, well, I see that your Wi-Fi distance in feet or meters, I think is the default report. Yeah, it's in meters as I look at the report. Your Wi-Fi distance in meters is a little far. Where are you? Are you back in your backyard or your neighbor's house? Go back closer to the access point, and likely your session is going to be less glitchy and speed up. So that's just an example of the end user metrics that we can gather. There's more than 100 different end user metrics that we're going to be gathering now from the endpoint from an IGEL session that you would not have seen otherwise.
Why meters? I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. I'm meters in Celsius and everything nowadays, right?
Sure,
Living in Germany, but
sure.
Why'd you pick meters?
It's the more
That's
scientific.
a great question.
The more scientific measurement.
What are the mysteries of the universe? Why
Now
are something? No,
yeah,
it's a
you
great
can
question.
toggle it. You can toggle it, and you can see feet. In other words, you can also have a different report that shows you in feet. But meters is international and more scientific, right? The three of us grew up going to grade school and secondary school and notice those terms I used for the benefit of our European audience in learning in the U.S.
Some of you actually
metric.
went to class, by the way. I've got it for proper disclosure. Some of us did not make every class.
Imperial measurements, right? So, but when we did
No,
this
it's cool.
report-
The first demo I got, it was funny. The first demo I saw, Doug, was the gentleman. I won't name his name, and we very quickly said, "You're 62% signal strength. You're on a 5G network, and you're X, number of meters away from your access point. All were true. All were solved with 2 clicks." Which is kind of a segue for some other hints we're gonna give you at the end of the podcast. I don't want to spoil all the surprises now, Doug.
I love hints and tricks and tips and all that stuff. So you guys do have a new version of Stratusphere coming up.
Yeah. So I got ahead of myself a little bit for that, but
Yeah,
the
you
work
did.
from home metrics are actually in there. So
Okay.
I was really excited. That's in 6.1.5, and that is set to ship within the next week or two. Buttoning up just a couple of things, and we'll have that out and delivered. So those listening may actually be hearing this, and we're here at June 22nd recording date for this. So it's likely already out by the time you hear this. So some of the other things that we have in that version are other work from home metrics. We can tell you the OS build. So that, again, that goes to not only the build, but the build number. So the OS version, but the build number can be quite important when you're diagnosing complete end user experience. We can now actually tell you which apps are active in the foreground of a user session on average. So this goes to user productivity. At a high level, we're letting you know, are your work from home users productive when you run this report? Give me a list of the active apps in the foreground for a group of users on average, or for an individual user. So you can see if they're using their line of business apps, and of course the browser is going to be in there, so that may not give you the finite information, but it gives you a rule of thumb how productive they are if you've sent new users to work from home that maybe never worked from home before. It's not necessarily, spyware. We're not going to look at URLs with those reports or go down to the very nth degree of what the user is doing. At least the app's open, you can tell what's going on. Our API builder has actually been updated. The API builder, we've dubbed it 2.0. It's so intuitive to do any integration with
so
third-party
easy. A
apps now.
T-Rex could use it.
That's actually maybe the tagline that we'll use in the press release.
I hope not. I hope not. I hope not.
Do it.
API, advanced programmer interface, right? It sounds intimidating, but ours is so easy. It's so graphical that you can integrate Stratusphere metrics with anything third party, and Power BI from Microsoft. So you have, reports any way you want to slice and dice them is one way to do that. and be able to integrate it with any other third party. Help desk support is another way you may want to do that. Just two examples, but the API builder is now done.
You mean like ServiceNow?
Exactly. ServiceNow, the leading one out of that pack. And by the way, we're ServiceNow partners, and we've recently, with the aid of some expertise that we have leased out from Zentegra, we have a kit that is going to be available on the ServiceNow website that will allow you to have a plug-in to get your metrics straight into ServiceNow from Stratusphere.
Very cool. Very, very,
That's
very
exciting
cool.
times. Exciting times.
It is very exciting times, Tyler. Very, very exciting times.
There's one other thing I want to tell you about too.
Please.
And so this Stratusphere really so chock full of new features and reports. We've had this feature, and I believe you're a fan of this feature, optimization, CPU and RAM optimization, where you can add to the forefront. We've had the feature for over a year in Stratusphere. The IP behind it was developed in-house, and you're familiar with similar concepts from over the years, right? Citrix has had one or two off and on, and they currently have another one that they acquired through Northscale. But this is for all of your Windows desktops across the board. Again, we dubbed ourselves Adaptive Workspace Management because we work with all Windows desktops, and we can optimize that. So we are successfully helping our customers get, with that feature, at least another year out of their PCs and their refresh cycles. For example, if you had a 5-year refresh cycle, we've seen some of our customers go down to a 4-year. If you had a 4-year, you've been able to go to a 5-year refresh cycle, saving you dramatic dollars and giving you greater return on investment. But in this version of Stratusphere that is about to ship has a lot of process optimization stats. So you can start to see equate this really to the dramatic performance increases that you are getting out of individual R PCs at a group. So it's easy to justify Stratusphere being an optimizer turned on in an environment just from this single feature alone and the new reports that have been added.
This is sort of amazing. I mean, these are really big updates, right? I mean, you just rambled off a lot of new stuff. It's really great.
Yeah, there's a few I didn't mention or we'd be here a little longer today, but those are some of the most newsworthy ones, and we're excited about this release. A lot of new reports and a lot of new ways to look at them. So some of our graphical reports have seen significant updates as well.
That's great. That's great. Tyler, being an alliances guy, last week there was a press release with Nutanix. Can you share what it was all about? I hope you know about this.
I do. No, actually, it's been a great relationship. You know, the alliance relationship with Nutanix goes way back. It's maybe 7 years. We, in the federal space, in the federal government space, in the Department of Defense and some 3-letter agencies in the intelligence community that shall remain nameless, embarked on exploring virtual desktop infrastructure for different and various use cases, across their domains. And it was really the first time, really the rubber met the road with Nutanix and Liquidware. And so I'm happy to report, we jokingly said we weren't large enough for the PR, but we were large enough for the PO. And happily, a lot of those customers are, still expanding and exploring different ways to deploy Windows today. So fast forward to this, this recent press release, with Nutanix's acquisition of Frame and Xyframe now, we're seeing expanded use cases, expanded adoption. And what a lot of folks, might not have caught was, maybe it was about a year or so ago, I'm already dating myself, we signed an OEM agreement, by which they're using the ProfileUnity profile disk that Jason Smith mentioned earlier in the show. So we're really excited about that kind of foundational level integration, with Nutanix and Xyframe. Obviously, again, respecting the fact that you're going to have a lot of different hybrid deployments, even in and amongst, the Nutanix community. What I mean by that is there are umpteens, and I'm probably not using a technical term, enterprise deployments of Citrix happily running on top of Nutanix. We support that, with application layering. Conversely, there are net new deployments of Xyframe. And so we're here kind of to serve, again, as that supporting cast member. And so, the press release, when we see something where it's on their banner or their paper, if you will, it's really flattering. It's three or four of us in the early days kind of thinking about some of the problems we could solve. And, here we are, in the PR of a multi-billion-dollar public company. It's kind of humbling and pretty cool. And the best part is that, customers win in the end. So I don't know, maybe that's one of those win-wins I keep reading about.
I love it, Tyler. I love it. That is really great. I'm a big fan of what Nutanix is doing, so I love seeing you guys working with them. And
well, you're there. I mean, for proper disclosure, this isn't a marketing call, but IGEL is everywhere. I mean, you have been a cornerstone of nudging again a lot of these projects towards success. A lot of folks have maybe gone into projects with preconceived notions of what the edge or the endpoint is or should look like. And I think very rapidly, I'm happy about this. There's kind of a new dawn of education of, so I can do that at the edge or on the end. Yeah, you can. That's what I'm kind of excited about. I kept using that term hybrid, and I don't just mean, the deployments. I mean endpoints. I mean the apps. I mean all of it. So yeah, again, it's an exciting and somewhat overwhelming time, but we've got folks like you who've, again, without dating you, been around for a little while.
I'm an old man, Tyler. Actually, I think you're a little bit older than me, right?
50 next month. Yeah, I'm old.
I'm taking that. At our age, we're very happy. About 15 months. I'll take 15 more months. Let's see. One of the other things is Horizon. We've talked a lot about WVD. You mentioned Citrix. You brought up Horizon a little bit, and you came from VMware in some short way. What's next for Horizon for Liquidware?
Well, I'll take that two ways. So I'll tell you, kind of the first way I think about, VMware and Horizon, which is, for the first maybe 5 or 6 years of Liquidware's instantiation, we had a phenomenal track record of filling those gaps, whether it was application layering, whether it was advanced and basic profile management. Obviously, visibility, we continue to this day to be one of the leading assessment platforms that VMware uses out in the field. It's been a great relationship and just a ton. I mean, I dare say millions and millions of jointly deployed seats right now. Looking forward on the horizon, see how I did that? Yeah, thanks. Looking forward on the horizon, I think that we look at the methodology that we promised the market 11 years ago we were going to adopt, which was ADDM, ADDM, assess, deploy, assess, design, deploy, manage. Assess, design, deploy, manage. And I think we've done a phenomenal job, with Stratusphere on the assessment front, ProfileUnity on it helps both with the design and the deployment front, as well as the management front, FlexApp as well. And then you get to the management silo, and Stratusphere has arguably been one of the most focused, specific instrumentalities for helping you get, deep introspection and visibility in and across your Windows domains. But what's next? And so instead of us answering what's next, we went to the customers and said, what is it, based on what we've delivered so far, across the ADDM continuum, assess, design, deploy, and manage, that you would want next. And one of the, I think, striking pieces of feedback was Stratusphere is phenomenal at seeing everything, but I'd like to actually have it start doing things. And so again, I don't want to, interesting indeed. So we kind of took a fresh page and maybe a cloud native approach. And Jason Smith is chewing his fingernails because I'm getting dangerously close. But what I can share with you is that Liquidware will have probably our biggest news, a new product announcement. Stay tuned. You're the first to hear about this. It will be near the end of this summer. And we fully intend to deliver to not only our existing, 6 or 7 million seats of happy customers, but the other few 100 million that are out there working remotely, a solution whose time is just about perfect. So with that, I'm going to mute myself before Jason Smith hits my edit or censor button.
So when you release this, can we you'll come back on, right, and share that with us? Maybe a preview or something of that nature?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. And in all sincerity, you are among IGEL's among our most advanced, technical alliances that we have. And so, although I mentioned the hardware and the software and the cloud platforms, it meets at the end point. It meets at the user's fingertips, and that's your domain of expertise. So, absolutely, we believe we can be an additional layer of instrumentality, to help solve, as you kind of hinted at in the beginning. What does this new normal look like? What does this new remote over campus work look like? What could it look like? We have some thoughts, and the cool thing it's straight from customers. This is what they asked for. So with that, you got my commitment. You'll be the first to know.
Cool. Okay, boy, where do we go from here? I think we're almost done. You guys are going to be at Digital Disrupt this week, IGEL's conference. What do you maybe share a little bit about? I guess you're going to talk about what we just chatted about, right?
Yep, we'll be there. We were one of the first people to sign up. We're excited always to partner with IGEL because we really do have a one-to-one ratio with the customer base and prospect base for people that are interested in IGEL, also interested in adaptive workspace management, obviously. So we're going to have so this is the first Digital Disrupt, right? The Disrupts have been very, very well received. The last one I went to was the last one, I guess, that happened in January. In Nashville, or maybe there was the one in Europe.
Well, we had Munich
a
couple weeks later, but it was
right.
One in US, one in EMEA.
Both those very successful, and then with COVID, this one makes great sense to be able to do something to tie our time over until the next time we'll get to see everyone in person. And that Digital Disrupt, I guess it's Thursday this week, if I'm correct, right? And it's a multi-hour show, and you'll be able to pop in and out of vendor booths virtually. And so stop by online and you'll be able to chat with Tyler and I and a couple of other staff members that are smarter than we are on the products. And we also have a session, work from home. No, everyone's tired of that. We're going to be talking about how you can work from anywhere,
Ooh.
not just from home. And you know, end user metrics and have the desktop of your dreams while you are at the beach or wherever you want to be.
That's great. It's always a pleasure. Anytime I'm at a show with Jason or Tyler, I always track these guys down, and I've known Jason forever. And Jason was in Nashville with us at Disrupt, and I saw him at the party. He came up to me, got really close to me, which always freaks me out when he gets very close to me. And he said, yes. And he said, you know what I would change about Disrupt? And he's, again, very close to me. And I said, well, I don't know. What? I said, move back, Jason. He said, nothing. I thought that was great. I think Jed walked by right when that happened. And or maybe it was Simon, I forget. But,
well, that's the shout out I wanted to give you guys and gals, which is that you've created just an amazing community and center of gravity. And so I guess I'm kind of saying thank you. What I mean by that is for a couple of years, it was a vacuum. It really was. There was nothing really going on specific to end user computing at any of the shows. We all joked they'd become cloud or storage shows. Hey, why don't you do a pavilion all about end user computing? No one really listened, and then you guys did. You specifically, Doug, and you obviously and Jed, have single-handedly as a company, I think, reinvigorated EUC at a time when, again, the gentle nudges of Microsoft saying it's okay to reimagine Windows, and at the same time, work from home and remote, becomes big deal. So thank you on behalf of Liquidware. I mean, I really appreciate this opportunity. Yeah, I mean, and Jason will echo it. Thanks for giving us the microphone. Thanks for doing what you do. I definitely meant
it. And I think it was a noisy area over in the Grand Ole Opry. That's why I stepped closer to you so you could hear me as you're getting hard of hearing. So
yeah,
don't take it personally. It's just a close talker for the moment. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You're not a close talker, but you got real close.
Exactly.
Very serious.
There was so much energy. I started to say synergy. There was so much energy at the Disrupt in person in Nashville that I attended, and I think why that is because IGEL also partners with every leading way that you can deliver a virtual desktop too.
Yep.
And when you are able to bring those people together and have, not just a singular, Citrix Synergy is a great show, but it's all about synergy. The IGEL Disrupt show is not only about Citrix, but it's about VMware. It's about Amazon workspaces, and it's about a couple of other alternative ways to deliver these desktops. And you get more options. And when customers have more options to look at and to choose from, we're all the better for it, because
here's another public service announcement. No, you're well said, Jason. I mean, my public service announcement, to anyone who is double clicked on it, is you'd be shocked how collaborative the companies that you might have thought were competitors actually are. And what I mean by that is I'm psyched for the Digital Disrupt. I love hanging out with our competitors, who are our peers, who are the ones we talk to around, a cup of coffee about what are you seeing? How can we help? And the cool thing is, and this is maybe just a 2020 thing, I've never seen as much collaboration between companies that, again, you might have thought were competitors. So before you make any assumptions, raise your hand and ask. We're probably more likely to all steer you in the right direction than, maybe some of the business practices of 20 years ago. It's cool to see. I'm really excited about it.
It's a great industry. It really is. And the thing is too, is when you guys go to conferences or whatever, or these smaller events too, the people you see is not the guys you work with. It's your competition. And you become good friends with these folks, right? And the other thing, it's a small world too. So, maybe they work for, company X one day and then company Y the next day. And before they were your friend, now they're your frenemy or what have you, right? So, at the end of the day, we all know each other. It's a great space. In talk about passionate, EUC is just a bunch of, because we're the crazy ones, right? Especially the old folks, we're the guys that believe we have a better idea. So the passion is if anything, we need to tone it down a bit, right?
Probably. Yeah, no, I do. No, keep going. It's well said.
That's it. I will leave you on the last thing, and for those guys listening too, is stay tuned. We're going to do an IGEL community conference. So Disrupt is great, right? I love Disrupt, but we're going to get really nerdy technical. And I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be the guy
Subscribe.
Yeah, I'm going to be the guy vetting the sessions. They're going to be no, in fact, I thought about even limiting PowerPoint. Like you could have 2 slides, that's it. If I see 3, you get disconnected next. Like pure tech.
Oh, that is awesome.
So this is what I want. I want to just.
If your presentation doesn't start with a C prompt, you're probably not going to have fun.
Exactly. And, it's not for the faint of heart, right? It's not for, everybody. Heck, it's not even for me that much anymore. But there's a huge group of people out there that want that type of content, and we're going to bring it to them. And awesome. The thing I love most about IGEL is, well, I don't want to say most because I don't want to discount anybody, but
that's cool.
Jed has been so awesome in the sense of, bringing together like the things you said, but also allowing me to do what I do, right? And allowing every one of us to do what we do best. And I think that's what's created the passion with inside IGEL. I mean, I walked into a passionate company to begin with, but it sort of got amped up to level 11, right? It was all about, hey, do the right thing, really enjoy it, and have some fun, so.
Yeah. I said the same thing when I ran into Mark. It's funny. I ran into Mark Templeton at the Nutanix.next. I think it was called National Harbor. It's down around Washington, D.C. It was a couple years ago. And he was there, and I just kind of stopped him. Mark, Mr. Templeton, in his entourage. And he said, oh, what? And he kind of recognized me. Probably didn't know who I was. And I said, just wanted to say, it was awesome to watch you paint your masterpiece, because he had just departed Citrix. I kind of feel the same way about you guys. You're in the middle of painting your masterpiece. It's cool to watch. Let us know if we can help.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet Mark did know your name. That was one of the geniuses. There's many of them, but one of the geniuses behind Mark is he knew everybody's name. And I wish I had that skill. Unfortunately, I don't. I'll recognize your face, but I won't remember your name always. So what's funny is I will remember your name if I met you in a hotel room at 4:00 in the morning. But otherwise,
that's why
I
needed the nickname T-Rex, because if you're short and bald, you better have a good nickname, or you will be forgotten. It's just
we're in the podcast on this. I think I know this story, but how did you end up with the nickname T-Rex? Share that, and we'll call it an episode. Sound good, Tyler?
Yeah, it sounds good. So about the time 11 years ago that I found myself making the transition from small company guy to big company guy at VMware, and they had 3,000 employees, maybe 4,000. So there's still, I guess, this smaller version of what they are today. And so my first day, my daughter and I are chatting back and forth on my new corporate email, at VMware.com, how it could be cooler. Well, what's cooler is having an auto signature, right? So I fill out the auto signature, and we were joking back and forth about how stingy I am, and I can't reach my wallet. My arms are like a T-Rex, and I'm all mouth. And so I changed my auto signature to J.Tyler T-Rex Rohrer the first, Esquire. And I continue this email barrage with my 14-year-old daughter. And about a month later, my boss's boss came in and said, "Hey, what's this T-Rex thing in your auto signature?" It's like, oh my gosh, I was joking around with my daughter. She was saying I was stingy and I talk too much. I'll take it down. I'm really sorry. And I said, no, it's perfect. So I don't know, maybe it's perfect, maybe it's not perfect. Those that know me are probably rolling your eyes right now, but that's the story and I'm sticking to it.
That's great. That's great. Jason, we need to give you a nickname. I have no nickname. They just call me Doug. It's like, oh, damn it.
I've never had one that stuck. So
yeah, me neither. It's just Doug. Oh, darn.
What about Dude? I mean,
Dude?
Doug is very close to Dude. I mean, Dude's popular. A lot of people are using it, but not exclusively. What about Dude Brown?
But if my nickname was Dude, and then someone was like, "Hey, Dude," to some other dude, then I get looked too. That would be very confused.
Well, Doug, you're always part of the conversation.
Okay, we've gone way off the left field. So, guys, thank you so much for taking the time. It's always such a pleasure to chat with you. I'm really sad that we finally recorded this. I was enjoying just the random calls we had, so we'll have to do more of those. That's fun.
Anytime.
Thanks for having us.
Numbers are busy signals. We're on. Thanks, guys.
Numbers are busy. So, Jason, I'll ask you, if somebody wants to learn more, what do they need to do?
Right, so you can go to the IGEL Alliance page and find us there, but if you want to find even more information, our website is www.liquidware.com. You don't have to put in the W's anymore. I think they changed that back around 1999.
Believe it or not, it's a DNS thing. It's been there since ever because you can resolve to the domain. The www is not a domain; it's a host. But some people don't do that, and so you put in just Liquidware, and then it's an errors, and it just basically it's a entry level 101 DNS error. It wasn't configured properly. But there's other reasons why you would want www that could resolve to a different domain or different box if you wanted to, or IP. Or
I knew you guys were going to show off. I knew you were going to make me look dumb again.
I like DNS. I don't know why.
I love it.
Well, when I came up through the ranks, I remember I took the NT351. If anyone knows this or remembers this, so they'll be like, "Wow, I remember that. That was cool. That was fun." The 351 TCP/IP test, and out of all the tests I ever took in my time taking exams, that was the toughest. And learning IP was a blast for me. I don't know why, but I really loved it. I love subnetting and super subnetting. I love DNS. Talking about uber nerdy, geeky crap, but it was fun. It was fun.
No, it's the consciousness of everything we do. Literally, your fascination is with the neural network of computing. I dig that. This maybe has to be a follow-on podcast.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Well, back then you didn't have a lot, so that's the geekiest thing you can get with TCP/IP. Nowadays, you have all these layers on top that are pretty darn nerdy, cool too. So. And on that note, I'll leave you guys all with this. It is Apple Day, as I like to say. We're recording on the first day of Apple's conference. So tonight I get to, for me and being in Germany, I get to sit down and see what Apple releases for iOS 14 and all that stuff. Do you guys care about that? Are you Apple people?
I care about it enough to read it in tomorrow's news.
I care about it for sure. No, absolutely. I think I jokingly tell everyone, if you want to know where I got a lot of the thoughts that I have on the future of where this is all headed, go to YouTube, put in Steve Jobs 1997 blank, and there's a video of him at one of the first worldwide developer conferences talking about his vision of the future of enterprise computing. 1997, folks. It's eerie how I think he predicted what we're seeing right now.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out. Last night I watched an Andy Hertzfeld interview, which is a recent one, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, I've heard it all before, but Andy Hertzfeld, who is one of the guys that wrote some of the early apps within ROM apps, like the system board stuff for the original Mac. And Andy's truly one of my heroes in life. So But I love going to YouTube and watching Steve Jobs stuff. It's always interesting. The guy's he was a unique individual. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks again, Doug. This has been just
thanks.
an absolute pleasure.
Right
Jason,
now we're back to this is what we do prior, guys. This is what we do prior.
Yeah, right.
To the shows, yep. Right. We just talk about absolutely nothing and never shut up.
Hey, did you guys hear about the Dalai Lama? Yeah, exactly. There's an hour.
We could talk about that. We did talk about the Dalai Lama. Actually, one of Dalai Lama's friends in the free. Okay, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
What do I say? Thank you guys so very much for listening to this episode, and thanks Jason and Tyler for being on this show. I had so much fun recording this with these guys, and we actually tried to record it last week, and we ended up chatting about business and COVID-19 and, life in general, what's new at Liquidware, sort of off the record conversation, and then everything else under the sun, the Dalai Lama, right? And which is actually a very interesting topic. But we had a lot of fun, and today was the same way. Finally, I told him we're going to run out of time if we don't start recording this. So we did it, and what do I say? But thank you guys. Thank you, Jason and Tyler, for taking the time to do this and spending so much time with me. It was a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Hope you learned a little bit. Definitely check out what Liquidware is doing. They have, like they said, the new announcements, really feature-packed releases too. So definitely check that out. And of course, check out what IGEL's doing, IGEL.com. IGEL Community is what I run. If you at all related to or interested in IGEL, if you work with IGEL technologies, you should be a member of that community. And that's at www.igelcommunity.com or join.igelcommunity.com. And Liquidware is liquidware.com. IGEL's IGEL.com. Am I running out of domains to pitch? No. It's always so much fun to chat with those guys. I'm always sort of left. So I'll just go ahead and say thank you all for listening. If you like the show, please tell a friend. If you don't, tell me why. And what else do I say? But thank you very much for listening to DABCC Radio.
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.